extraordinary 1 a.m. White House press conference come reporters to hear a decision affecting American policy in Korea, Asia, and the world. Press Secretary Short reads the momentous presidential statement, climaxing months of disagreement on Far Eastern policy between President Truman and General Douglas MacArthur. With deep regret, I have concluded that General of the Army Douglas MacArthur is unable to give his wholehearted support to the policies of the United States government and of the United Nations in matters pertaining to his official duties. In view of the specific responsibilities imposed upon me by the Constitution of the United States and the added responsibility which has been entrusted to me by the United Nations, I have decided that I must make a change of command in the Far East. I have therefore relieved General MacArthur of his commands and have designated Lieutenant General Matthew B. Ridgway as his successor. Behind the giant headlines were weeks of mounting tension between Washington and General MacArthur. Tension brought to a climax when Representative Martin made public a MacArthur letter urging use of nationalist Chinese troops, directly opposing administration policy. Reaction to MacArthur's dismissal comes swiftly. Republican Senator Wherry says,
"This is a tragic day for America. We do not know where we're going in Korea. We do not know where we're going in China. MacArthur knows, and he's been fired."
The opposite view is strongly taken by Senator Lister Hill.
The President's action shows that he is resolved to stay out of a terrible, all-out war in China, and I agree with him. The matter is so vital to the peace and security of our country and to the lives of millions of America's young men, I hope it may be considered on its merits and not on any basis of politics or personalities.
How do the people themselves feel? Warner Pathé News asks them.
Do you have any reaction to General MacArthur?
I heartily approve of what the President has done. It's a darn good move.
Thank you.
General MacArthur, well, I think he's a pretty good man.
Do you agree with President Truman in what he did?
No.
How do you feel about General MacArthur?
Well, I feel he did the wrong thing in interfering with the government policy and not sticking to his military command.
Corporal, how do you feel about the news about General MacArthur?
Well, I think General's going to be a hard man to replace. It's not very good news at this time, and being a member of the armed forces myself, I am not going to make any statement that will go against government policy. They doing what they think is best.
How do you feel about General MacArthur?
Not so good.
Madam, would you like to tell me how you feel about General
Yes,
MacArthur?
I certainly do.
Would you
I
face
think
the camera, please? How do you feel?
I think it's very unjust taking MacArthur off
Thank
as
you.
the Chief of Staff.
Thank you very much.
I feel General MacArthur should have been called home and that President Truman was right.
Thank you very much. And how do you feel about that, sir?
Same way.
You feel the same way. You agree with President Truman?
Yes.
How do you feel about General MacArthur? Hey, tell him something.
He's a great general, that General MacArthur. I'm sorry to see him go.
Thank you very much. And, sir, how do you feel about General MacArthur?
same way. He's a fine man. It's too bad.
I think he got a dirty deal. I feel as though he should be kept where he is and in complete command of everything.
I'm in full support of President Truman. I feel that he was justified in what he was doing, and I'm all with him.
Thank you.
In Washington, a bomber lands with Lieutenant General James A. Van Fleet, named to succeed General Ridgway commanding the 8th Army. General Van Fleet had been on vacation in Florida, but by night he's back in uniform. His wife and Army Chief of Staff Collins wish him Godspeed. Even as the 59-year-old general leaves Washington for Korea, in a special message, President Truman explains to the nation his opposition to General MacArthur's proposal for direct military action against Red China.
I've thought long and hard about this question of extending the war in Asia. I've discussed it many times with the ablest military advisors in the country. I believe with all my heart that the course we are following is the best course. But you may ask, why can't we take other steps to punish the aggressor? Why don't we bomb Manchuria and China itself? Why don't we assist the Chinese nationalist troops to land on the mainland of China? If we were to do these things, we would be running a very grave risk of starting a general war. If that were to happen, we would have brought about the exact situation we're trying to prevent. If we were to do these things, we would be enmeshed in a vast conflict on the continent of Asia, and our task would become immeasurably more difficult all over the world. What would suit the ambitions of the Kremlin better than for our military forces to be committed to a full-scale war with Red China? I believe that we must try to limit the war to Korea for these vital reasons: to make sure that the precious lives of our fighting men are not wasted, to see that the security of our country and the free world is not needlessly jeopardized, and to prevent a third world war.
To Wake Island, battle-scarred Pacific atoll, President Truman had flown last October to discuss with General MacArthur ways to bring peace to the Pacific. Their conference ended in apparent agreement, but in the weeks that followed, disagreements appeared, climaxed now in the sensational presidential order relieving MacArthur of the Supreme Allied Command in Japan, the United Nations Command in Korea, and the U.S. Command in the Far East. But in issuing his announcement, the president pays tribute to a gallant fighting man. General MacArthur's place in history as one of our greatest commanders is fully established. The nation owes him a debt of gratitude for the distinguished and exceptional service which he has rendered his country in posts of great responsibility. For that reason, I repeat my regret at the necessity for the action I feel compelled to take in his case.
To a joint session of the new Congress, the President reports on the State of the Union and asks strength and unity at home and abroad.
The threat of world conquest by Soviet Russia endangers our liberty and endangers the kind of world in which the free spirit of men can survive. The threat is a total threat, and the danger is a common danger. It is in the Far East that we have taken up arms under the United Nations to preserve the principle of independence for free nations. We are fighting to keep the forces of communist aggression from making a slave state out of Korea. If Western Europe were to fall to Soviet Russia, it would double the Soviet supply of coal and triple the Soviet supply of steel. If the free countries of Asia and Africa should fall into Soviet Russia, we would lose the sources of many of our most vital raw materials, including uranium, which is the basis of our atomic power. And Soviet command of the manpower of the free nations of Europe and Asia would confront us with the military forces which we could never hope to equal. The Soviet rulers have made it clear that we must have strength as well as right on our side. If we build our strength, and we are building it, the Soviet rulers may face the facts and lay aside their plans to take over the world. That is what we hope will happen, and that is what we're trying to bring about.
President Truman greets White House news photographers as he opens their annual exhibition of the year's outstanding pictures. Many tell the story of the presidential assassination attempt. Among them is Bruce Hurdle's Spot News winner showing would-be assassin Oscar Collazo shot on the Blair House steps. The president presents the grand prize to Navy veteran Wellner Streets for his picture Daddy's Girl, a reservist carrying his infant daughter as he leaves home heading toward duty in Korea. The French liner Ile-de-France brings to New York, past the Statue of Liberty, gift of the people of France to the United States, French President Vincent Auriol, accompanied by Foreign Minister Robert Schuman. The first French chief executive ever to pay a visit of state to America hurries to Washington. Here in Union Station, President and Mrs. Truman greet President and Madame Auriol and their party to begin the most elaborate welcome the capital has extended in years. The ride through Washington, itself a symbol of French and American friendship, for it was laid out by a French architect, takes the two presidents past 250,000 cheering residents. Reviewing Showing 5,000 troops marching in his honor, President Oriol pledges that France will continue to take her place beside the United States in the battle for liberty, just as she always has ever since 1776.
President Truman, referring to arguments over his power to send troops abroad for Eisenhower's army, cites ancient history to show he knows how Congress feels.
Somebody sent me a cartoon from Punch a day or two ago in which the cartoonist was depicting an argument in the Senate of the Carthaginians. And one able senator of the Carthaginians was saying that Hannibal should not be allowed to use elephants in Italy because the Senate should control the use of those elephants. That's been going on ever since we had senates and senators. And I've served 10 years in the Senate, and I know just exactly how they feel. There isn't a senator in the Senate who's not just as anxious to see the United States government continue as the free government of the world as I am. And I know that no matter what they say for publication, when the time comes for action, they'll be right there and they'll act. I'm just assured of that.